Hello, welcome to Steph's new world of love and light. We're starting a new series, a little softer maybe, but some practicality built into it. I had a young woman assisting me for a while, and I had really hoped that she and I were going to um, maintain a relationship for a little longer than a month, but sadly, a month is about all it lasted. Now, there were a lot of reasons for that, and I'm not going to get into it, but she made some decisions in her life that were important to her. And unfortunately, those decisions would keep her from coming over here to my home or doing the things that I need to have done. And so, because of that, it was pretty much a mutual agreement that it probably would not work out. And at least I hope it was. I pray that it was. I don't want to talk about her, but I am going to talk about the younger age group because having this person around me for a month, boy, it gave me a big reminder of what it was like, how I used to think, what was important to me. I don't think I could have handled someone like me in my life when I was 19 years old. I was just too wild, frankly. And I didn't know how to slow down. And I certainly didn't want anyone telling me anything, making suggestions of any kind. I had been suggestioned out, let's put it that way. And you know what? I'll bet you a lot of people can understand that little statement, being suggestioned out. I've seen it on YouTube lately. People that are closer to my age who are displaying or making statements in the respect that they've had it, they don't want to hear certain things anymore, that people truly don't understand, blah blah blah. Well, the fact is that people do really understand. And I think many times in my life, I used to think that no one ever understood me or my problems. Not ever. And as a result of that, instead of seeking out help and maybe some a little older, wiser people who are probably there, probably at arm's length from me, to help me with very important decision making, that I simply decided not to do it that way. And I made those choices myself. And in doing so, later on in life, I did some very destructive things to myself because I was living in a place called the blame game. Now, I don't want to get into that too much right now, but sometime I will be getting into that. Now, what I do want to ask is this. How many people early in the morning, say when you're taking a shower, getting ready for your day, think during your shower about, uh-oh, I have to do this, and uh-oh, I have to do that, and, it's the uh-oh thing. You know what I mean? You ever have those times when, it suddenly hits you that I have to pay this bill, or I'm going to be, they're going to come after me, or I'm going to have to pay 2 bills if I don't get it paid by this date, and blah, blah, blah. And you're taking a shower, and all that stuff hits you. And suddenly you feel like you've got the world on top of you, hitting you hard. To the point where you can't take hardly anything. And your blood pressure is probably going up at this point, because suddenly, not only are you thinking about, a couple of bills, but you're probably thinking about a relationship, or the relationship that you're in, or the kids, or something other than that in your life that, all of it escalated. How many people can honestly say that that happens to them? I can, or I should say I used to. I don't today, but I did. And mine escalated to the point where I would have anxiety attacks. I mean, horrible anxiety attacks, the kind where I couldn't even breathe anymore, where I would breathe so much that I would almost pass out. The kind where you need the paper bag, to slow yourself down. It was pretty bad, that I let myself get to that point. Over what? Over a bill? Over a couple of bills? Over just parts of life? Come on. Come on. We really let ourselves get like that, and we do. Well, you know what? We don't have to. Yeah, I know the money's due. There's always a choice, and there's always an alternative, believe me. There really is. And there's always a way to work it out. And I'm 59 years old, and trust me, I've been through a lot of things in life, believe me. I could tell you some stories that you would just go, come on, I can't believe it's true. But it is. It is. The things I had to do to even establish credit were unbelievable. But I did them. Because I had a family. And I had to make sure that that family, I felt it was part of my responsibility as a parent to make sure that my children had food on the table, healthy food, and time with me as their parent, spending quality time with my sweet children, and making sure I had a decent job, not just some working in a factory 60 hours a week. That's not a decent job. I did it. I know what it's like. And it's horrible. Absolutely horrible. And sometimes you think to yourself, well, maybe I can advance higher up. I'm smart enough. But here's the problem. With no college education, you're never going to get off that line that you're on, that assembly line, whatever it is. Because frankly, I haven't been on that assembly line in many, 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 many years. I'm happy to say. But it took a lot for me to get off that line. An awful lot. Okay, now, what about college? You know, what if you wanted to go to college? I wonder how many people think about that, college. Certainly that would help in getting a good position in life. And by the way, when you go to college, do you go because you're just trying to make money down the road, or do you go because it's really something you love to do? Just imagine that. Wouldn't it be wonderful if we all went to school to go to school because it's something we're learning because we absolutely love to do it? Wouldn't that be great? But I don't think a lot of kids are doing that. I really don't. Or people. Because it's not just kids that go to college. I mean, there's 40-year-olds, there's 50-year-olds, there's all different ages. And I know because when I worked as a programmer in one of my companies, we hired definitely some 50-year-olds and even, you know, a little bit younger, but they weren't kids. And they had just gotten their degrees in computer science. I think they were like a year out, maybe. Maybe they had a year to 2 years experience, which in our line of work, I got hair that's driving me nuts. Thank you. But in my world at that time, and where I worked, that year to 2 years of experience was extremely important. Extremely. We did not want just out of college people. And the reason for that was because it was very important to us that they got some kind of actual working, writing, programming experience, putting it into place, finding out what some of the necessary things were to doing that process. Okay, now let's get back into the simple questions. So in the morning, as you're getting ready for work or whatever you do, or in the afternoon, or at night, whatever time of the day that is your time to begin your daily activities. What's on your mind? I mean, really, what's on your mind? And don't be sneaky about it. I'd love to know. If you could talk back to me, I'd love to hear it. And I mean truthfully. the real stuff, men and women. And in that respect, I don't think men and women are that different. If they have a family, or if they're in a relationship that's serious, and they are working jobs, or they're going to school to start working those jobs, they have a lot on their minds. Yeah. But here's something that some very wise people told me a long time ago. They said, Steph, stop and smell the roses. Stop and smell the roses. Yep. Pretty good advice. Today, I'm on some medication for my nerve damage. And I ran out. I totally forgot. Oh my goodness. Although I didn't get oh my goodness. You know how I got? Oh, okay. Gotta go get that filled. I did not freak out. I did not have an aneurysm over it. Oh, and I've had an aneurysm. I have really low blood pressure. I mean, really low blood pressure. It's gotten so low, even at a doctor's office, that they were freaking out about it. Yeah, that's true. So the aneurysm isn't from that. Trust me. When I say I've had one, I still have it. It didn't go away. It's still in the left quadrant of my brain. It's just being held together by 4 titanium shunts. Some people can still fly. I can't. They told me my flying days were over. That was a little disappointing because I like to fly. I never used to years ago, but I do today. Of course, I don't know if I'd enjoy all the stuff you have to go through before you ever even get on the plane. I would probably be very tired and it'd be difficult. Okay, so getting back to about having an aneurysm on some mornings of your days, does it really have to be that way? Do you really believe it has to be that way? Because it doesn't. It really doesn't. We have choices in our lives. And we need to understand that we do have those choices. These are my suggestions to you. You can throw them out. I don't care what you do with them. They're purely suggestions in love and light. That's all they are. But I know one thing. Today while I was sitting in line to get that medication that I totally forgot about, I was taking pictures of the clouds because they were beautiful. I don't really care what people might think about me if they're behind me or in front of me and looking in the rear view mirror and seeing this strange woman with her cell phone taking all these pictures. I don't care. Doesn't matter to me. In fact, I hope they get something out of it. I truly do. But at any rate, I don't take any depression drugs. I think that's a terrible thing. I'm sorry. I'll never agree with the use of depression drugs. Not ever. And I have a reason for that. I have a lot of good reasons for that. And if you stick with me, you're going to hear about those reasons why I feel that way. You know, when my son passed away, behind me, wait a minute, other side, behind me, I don't have my fingers together. Can you see his outfit? Wait a minute. Oh, no, going the wrong way. Can you see his, oh, what am I doing here? See his outfit? Yeah. Okay. When my child died, fortunately, while I was still in with the doctors who knew me in Kansas City, and that's where we lived, that's where I raised the kids, they knew me, and they knew me well. And I guess they knew that I would get through it, that I would live through it, and I did. And that I valued my own life enough to not want to die because my child had died. I've been through a lot of deaths of people I love dearly. And I know there's a lot of other people who have also been through that. But you know, we have to think about us too. And we have to remember that we're here for a reason. We really are. Each person is here for a reason. And we're going to learn about that. I'm going to be reading some more about that. I'm just about ready to start. But, you know, wouldn't it be nice if we took those showers in the morning without going, oh, I gotta do this, and I gotta do that, and I gotta blah, 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 blah. And instead of that, enjoy that shower. Enjoy that nice, comfortable water hitting on our backs and our front of us and our bodies, and enjoy those droplets. Just take a moment and enjoy it. And not think about anything except what you're doing right at minute. Right that minute. Nothing more. Try it. If you try it one time, you'll try it again. And then you'll try it again and again and again. So, at any rate, the good news is that eventually, if you suffer from what they call anxiety attacks, you'll find out that you don't need any medication. You don't need anything, because you'll be able to get through life without any of that stuff. You really will. And understand that a lot of people suffer from that, have those problems. Nobody's alone. I had them really bad when I was, I think, in my 30s, late 30s. And I'm going to tell you something. Well, there's a reason why. But there usually is a specific reason why. But there didn't have to be, because actually my life was going really good at that point. It really was. I mean, as far as I didn't have the balance in it, not yet. That came later. We're going to talk about balance in the next one. I just wanted to introduce the chaos first, because what I've been talking about is chaotic thinking, chaotic living, chaotic being. That's what I've been talking about. Okay? And a lot of people think like that, they live like that. And when you think like that and live like that, you treat people that way. You're not pleasant. You think you are, but you're not. You're not at all. Because how can you be? How can you be pleasant when your mind is just filled with all this chaos? And I gotta do this, I gotta do that, and it's overwhelming. It'd be nice just to smell the roses, wouldn't it? Well, let me give you a little reading, and then we're going to call it the end of it for today. I'm doing these a little more often, at least I'm going to try to. Okay, now in the last one, we talked about the theology of doctrine to be found in the Bible. It simply is not there. So what it's saying is that Jesus the Christ, or Jesus Christ, did not preach about any kind of theology. Okay? Churches. He did not teach that doctrine. Alright? Now, the last thing that I read in here, and this is Sermon on the Mount by Emmett Fox, The Key to Success in Life. Alright? And the last thing I read, the last sentence was, they were not upon what is called the spiritual basis. And the spiritual basis is capitalized. Whenever Emmett capitalizes words, that's very important. That spiritual basis is a very important concept to him. So that's why he capitalizes it. And consequently, they sought a purely intellectual or three-dimensional explanation of life. And there can be no such explanation. We are many more than three-dimensional, aren't we? Now, the actual explanation of man's life lies in just the fact that he is essentially spiritual and eternal, and that this world and the life that we know intellectually is, so to speak, but a cross-section of the full truth concerning him, and a cross-section of anything from a machine to a horse never can furnish even a partial explanation of the whole. Okay, hang in there with me. This is going to get a little simpler. Glimpsing one tiny corner of the universe, and that with only half-opened eyes, and working from an exclusively anthropocentric and geocentric point of view, men built up absurd and very horrible fables about a limited and man-like God who conducted his universe very much as a rather ignorant and barbarous prince might conduct the affairs of a small oriental kingdom. Get the meaning here? You may not like to hear this, but hang in there with me, because there's going to be an explanation of all this right in the Bible. So if you believe in the Christian Bible, please hang in there with me. Okay, now, all sorts of human weaknesses such as vanity, fickleness, and spite were attributed to this being. Then a far-fetched and very inconsistent legend was built up concerning original sin, vicarious blood atonement, infinite punishment for finite transgressions, and in certain cases, an unutterably horrible doctrine of predestination to eternal torment or eternal bliss was added. Now, no such theory as this is taught in the Bible. None. Doesn't exist. If it were the object of the Bible to teach it, it would be clearly stated in a straightforward manner in some chapter or other, but it is not. It's not. The plan of salvation, quote, that's in quotes now, quote, quote, which figured so prominently in the evangelical, excuse my ability to speak, I do have some brain damage from a stroke and a brain aneurysm. So you'll have to bear with me if I can't get the words out quite right. I will do my very best, I promise. Okay, so the plan of salvation, which figured so prominently in the evangelical sermons and divinity books of a past generation, is as completely unknown to the Bible as it is to the Quran. Now, past generation, this was actually written in the 30s. Okay, probably even before the 30s. So past generation We're talking 1900, 1915. Yeah, I think my grandmother was born in 1915. Okay, there never was any such arrangement in the universe, and the Bible does not teach it at all. What has happened is that certain obscure texts from Genesis and a few phrases taken here and there from Paul's letters and one or two isolated verses from other parts of the scriptures have been taken out and pieced together by divines to produce the kind of teaching which it seemed to them ought to have been found in the Bible. Very important here, ought to have been found in the Bible. Man made a decision regarding our holy book, and it wasn't a prophet. Okay, Jesus knows nothing of all this. He is indeed anything but a Pollyanna, as they say, or cheap optimist. Back in the old days, Pollyanna is a term that they would use. I'll look it up in the dictionary one of these times and explain it, or you can if you don't know what it is, but we're going to move on because of time. Now, he warns us, not once, but often, that obstinacy in sin can bring very, very severe punishment in its train, and that a man who parts with the integrity of his soul, even though he gained the whole world, is a tragic fool. But he teaches that we are only punished for, or actually punished by, our own mistakes. And he teaches that every man or woman, no matter how steeped in evil and uncleanness, has always direct access to an all-loving, all-powerful Father God who will forgive him and supply his own strength to him to enable him to find himself again, and unto 70 times 7 if need be. Now, very briefly, I'm going to define some of what I just read as Emmett meant, because I do understand this very well. What he is saying in many words, actually, is quite a bit. By punished, he means we're the ones who are punishing ourselves. No, nothing eternal or godlike punishes us. Our actions and our choices become either our heaven or our hell. It's that simple. It really is that simple. And also, he talks about the tragic fool. He says that he warns us not once, but often, that obstinacy in sin can bring very, very severe punishment in its train, and that a man who puts the integrity of his soul, even though he gained the whole world, is a tragic fool. A tragic fool. There's going to be more about this, and it's in the Bible. Okay, so, and it says here that we are actually punished by our own mistakes in life, our own decisions, which are fraught with tragic thinking, chaotic thinking. We didn't stop and smell the roses. We didn't look around us and be grateful and look at the beautiful world that we live in. We didn't take pictures of it. We didn't paint pictures of it. Well, some of us did, thank goodness. Okay, Jesus has been sadly misunderstood and misrepresented in other directions too. For instance, there is no warrant whatever in his teaching for the setting up of any form of ecclesiasticism, of any hierarchy of officials or system or ritual. He did not authorize any such thing, and in fact the whole tone of his mentality is definitely anti-ecclesial. Okay, anti-church. Anti-church. That's what they're saying. I can't get the words out. I'm very sorry. It's getting a little worse as the days go on. My abilities to speak properly are getting a little worse, and I'm working on it. But you'll have to excuse me for that. I'm not stupid by any means. It's probably because I'm intelligent that I'm still able to function decently and under God's will, but in a good way. Okay, so he didn't authorize any rituals. Never. You know, the years between 1200 AC or AD to 1500 AD were outrageous. Absolutely outrageous, and it was money making, it was power hungry people who were behind all that. And if you think differently, do your homework, because I have. I know a lot about history. An awful lot. Okay, so he did not authorize any such thing. And in fact, the whole tone of his mentality is definitely anti-ecclesiastical. All through his public life, he was at war with the ecclesiastics and other religious officials of his own country. They first hindered and then persecuted him with a perfectly sound instinct of self-preservation. They felt instinctively that the truth, and that's capitalized, just about always when Emmett talks about the truth, it's always capitalized. There's a reason for that. As he taught it, was the beginning of the end for them. For them. and they finally had him put to death. Their pretensions to authority as a representatives of God, he ignored completely. And for their ritual and their ceremonies, he evinced only impatience and contempt. It seems that human nature is very prone to believe what it wants to believe, rather than to incur the labor of really searching the scriptures with an open mind. Perfectly sincere men, for example, have appointed themselves Christian leaders with the most imposing and pretentious titles, and then clothe themselves in elaborate and gorgeous vestments, with the better to impress the people, in spite of the fact that their master, which is capitalized, in the plainest language strictly charged his followers that they must do nothing of the kind. Nothing of the kind. But be ye not called Rabbi, for one is your master, even Christ, and all ye are brethren. Matthew 23:8. But be ye not called Rabbi, for one is your master, even Christ, and all ye are brethren. And he denounced the Pharisees as hypocrites because they loved the cheap seats and bind heavy burdens grievous to be borne, with all sorts of rules and regulations. Oh my goodness. They had so many rules and regulations, it was, who could ever keep track of it all? Seriously, who could keep track of this? Jesus, as we shall discover later on, made a special point of discouraging the layering of emphasis upon outer observances, and indeed upon hard and fast rules and regulations of every kind. Now I'm going to cut it right there for now. Okay? And we'll start basically there when we get started again. And I love all of you. And I'm doing this purely in love and light. I want you all to hear what is being said. Are we teaching our children the right things? Are we teaching ourselves? Are we learning ourselves the right things? Well, in love and light, I say goodbye today. Love and light from Steph. Number 2.